Good afternoon, late afternoon, early evening for everyone. I know we're across different time zones. How are you doing, Peggy and Janae?
I am doing great. How are you?
I am doing fine. I'm really excited about today, actually. Like one of those moments, when you get so excited and you're like, okay, calm down
Calm
first,
down.
breathe. That's what this is today. Okay. So if I get a little too where I can't speak or I'm speaking too much, my apologies early, but I'm really excited to be here with you, Peggy and Janae, and talk about what we're going to be speaking about today. I hope that this is the first of many conversations that we can have related to PCI and cybersecurity. So,
Awesome.
Janae, is your mic working? I know we were having some challenges earlier. We can't hear you. I'm not sure what's going on. So
I had this problem not too long ago when I was doing a training for ISACA. Everybody could hear me. I couldn't hear anyone.
Aren't those always crazy? Is that the
Yeah.
case here, Janae? Can you hear us? Okay, so she's so she can hear us. We just can't hear you. So I am not sure what we can do. But Janae, if you want to keep troubleshooting, and then if your mic magically starts working at some point, great. We'll keep you around here, okay, just in case. But anyway, I'd like us to kind of do a little round room and just have a brief moment to talk about who we are and what we do. And I'll start first to kind of just break the ice a little bit. Everyone, thank you for joining tonight. My name is Jaime Pina. I am someone who's been very familiar with PCI in the past. I was around before PCI was even called PCI. Back then, we called it the Visa and MasterCard data something standards, I think, or something like that. It was something like that, right? And then it turned into PCI DSS version 1. So I was working with restaurants, point of sale terminals, and installing their systems and getting all their credit cards configured for them. So that was my initial introduction to PCI. I fast forward 20 years. Here I am wanting to learn and be a much more vocal advocate, if that makes sense, and practitioner of PCI DSS security for organizations. And that's where I'm hoping to get into. And I thought one of the ways to help me do that was it wasn't to start a YouTube. I started YouTube to help me learn. And along the way, it just started doing things. And I was like, okay, I want to start interviewing people. I wanted someone who was some specialty, someone who knew their stuff. And that is where Peggy comes in. So Peggy, why don't you tell us all a little bit about yourself, please?
Oh, absolutely. And thank you for having me on, Jaime and Janaea. It's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to teach as many people as I can about PCI DSS compliance. I spent 10 years of my life as a PCI ISA. So I was an internal security assessor for a Fortune 100 company, level 1 merchant. And I learned from the School of Hard Knocks what it takes to make and create a successful continuous PCI DSS compliance program. Now, I wasn't alone. I didn't do it all on my own. My business partner, Lisa Cressy, she might be tuning in later today to listen in on this. She is the CTO of Payment Card Assessments. I'm the CEO of Payment Card Assessments, but we did it together. I was the ISA. She ran the sustainability program because the way our former company was structured, hosting owned about 80% of the PCI DSS security controls. So it made sense for them to hire somebody who could help them stand up sustainability for those controls. And so she and I became tied at the hip, so to speak. I had to know everything she was doing, and she had to know everything I was doing. So we became a team of two at a Fortune 100 company with over 40,000 employees. So we were supposed to have 9 people. We had 2. It was me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So most organizations don't staff for PCI appropriately.
So that's like the whole expectations versus reality. It was really out of sync, wasn't it?
So we learned how to do more with less. And we iterated year after year after year. So together we have 20 years of experience in PCI compliance. Together we have over 40,000 hours of expertise. We know what works, we know what doesn't work. And in 2021, we decided to start our own company to help other merchants because we know that PCI compliance is a struggle for about 85% of the merchant landscape, whether it's a small or medium-sized business or a large organization that is at that level 1 status where they're doing over 6 million transactions a year.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about me. I've been, but before, let me say just before and how I got into PCI compliance, my background was project management in IT security. So
Okay.
I was running IT security projects for my former company, and I was responsible for about 10 projects that had to do with the cardholder data environment. So file integrity monitoring, logging, we had a vault system, we had an HSM system, we had to make improvements to our Active Directory, we had to do something about legacy debt, and I was the project manager running all of those projects. And when the opening came for somebody to run the PCI compliance program, I looked at the job description and I said, oh, I'm just going to send my resume over.
You could put that in, and then it was kind of like, okay, we'll go ahead and
So
choose
I
you.
was a Friday afternoon. It was at lunchtime, and 20 minutes later, the internal recruiter called me and he said, can you interview on Monday? And I said, sure.
Wow.
So I interviewed on Monday and I was hired either that Wednesday or Thursday.
That's fantastic. So I will let you know, that is kind of like my hope. What I want Peggy to happen in a way. I don't know if it's going to happen
Well,
quite
so I
that
was
way.
already in the company, so
Right.
I was a known quantity. I was a known quantity. They knew me.
Okay.
The people that actually did the very first report on compliance for the company, they knew me very well. The IT security director knew me very well. He later became the CISO. He knew me very well. So I was a known quantity because I was already inside the company. I'd been working for the company for about 11 months.
And I hear it's a good thing sometimes whenever you're wanting to transitions. A lot of people have told me in PCI a lot of times, if they proposition their company for roles in that area, there's some benefit. There can be some victories in gaining some ground in that area.
There can be, but the people that volunteer for PCI are few and far between. System administrators know what PCI is, and they don't want anything to do with it. They don't want to become a PCI compliance manager. They don't want to run the program. They want to sit and do their system administrator work and just give the evidence when they're told to give their evidence. Yeah. Very few of them actually do it.
And so for the last 15 years, my background has been up here. I live in Illinois, and the city that I live in, like we have all the headquarters around here. We've got State Farm, we've got Country Financial, Caterpillar, Ferrero Rocher, the chocolate company.
Oh, go work for the chocolate company. Do their PCI.
Peggy, that's what I wanted.
I know, right?
So we used to have this fun neighbor down the road, and they would always bring my kids chocolates.
Yeah.
All the time. And I'd be like, and I don't mean like, like a Snickers bar or anything. We're talking just bags.
The bags of candy.
All the time. And we'd be like,
yeah.
You gotta chill out. But we didn't tell her that because it was so sweet. We'd tell the kids, you can't have them all. I'm sorry. But yes. So
right.
But there are a lot of corporate headquarters in my backyard around here. And so that is what I'm hoping to get into, is eventually hit those corporate locations and be like, let's see what we can do. I've worked for a couple of them, so I don't know. But it's not. And look, I know everyone, you're here tonight. We want to talk about the report on compliance. And Peggy, that's what you're going to do. But I don't want to limit anyone from asking questions that you feel compelled to ask Peggy. She is an expert here. She is amazing. I hope, again, that this will not be her only appearance here, but that she will be able to return to us. And maybe what we'll do is after a day, she and I can schedule something for everyone who may have some just generalized questions about the field, her specialty, kind of like a catch-all where, Peggy, you come on and you just take people's questions and thoughts.
Questions,
yeah, exactly. So I want you all to know that we will make sure to invite her back on and do that. Tonight, we will talk about report on compliance. So with that being said, because I know we can keep talking and keep talking. Oh, we got it.
Hear you.
Good. Okay. I didn't interrupt. So
no. I'm glad you did. So Janae, tell everyone a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So my name's Janae. I am currently in a internship for PCI, so I'm pretty new to it. It's a career change for me from customer service and the insurance field, personal lines insurance. And just since COVID, I've kind of wanted to change my lifestyle, and I thought this was a good avenue to go down. And I love that you're here, Peggy, another female to hear from, so I think that's great. So yeah, I'm super excited to learn more.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Thank you. So there are quite a few people. I'm just going to throw their messages on the screen real quick. No one's quite asked a question, which is fine. But we have people who are showing up from YouTube and LinkedIn, and they're here. They want to see this. They're excited to be here. They're just all saying hello, basically here. Some of these names may sound familiar to some of you, and others not, but that's
Hey,
okay.
Jose's here.
Yeah. Oh, congratulations, Jose. I just saw he got his
CISA.
His CISA. Okay, yes, that's what it was. Congratulations, Jose.
Going after it.
Yeah, he is, man. And you know what? I'm glad that I'm in with a circle of people that are going after the same things that I'm going after, and it makes me feel great.
Right.
And that's and I guess I should say, Janae and I, we are part of a same program, and she is one of those people who I have felt has been strongly learning and is going to be one of those capable people. You know how when you go through a program, you're like, I want to stay close to that person because they're like me. And that's what Janae is. So that's why I've invited her on here tonight with us. That's why I stick close and around with her, because I want to be successful and I want to be around people who also want to be successful. And I think Janae is one of those people. So
rising tide lifts all boats.
I feel the same way.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's why I teach everything that I know about PCI compliance.
And I'm so glad to be
learning. I teach what you're not going to find anywhere else. You're not going to find it from the council. And as much as I love the training that's available from the council, they have great things. They teach you the what. They don't teach you how. I teach you how. Here are the requirements. Here's the what you need to do. Now let's break it down and teach how to implement it in your organization. So I come at PCI from the role I was in as an internal security assessor. I've had some very interesting conversations with QSAs about how to approach PCI. And at the same time, when I ask them, have you ever been on the inside of an organization doing PCI? Mm-hmm. And they all say no. They all say no. They've never done PCI from inside an organization. So they really don't know how to help you. They know how to assess you, but they don't really know how to help you in the best way that's best for your company.
And
they try.
It's one of those, and I've worked with people like that in the past where it's like, man, you know enough to be much more damaging than helpful.
Yeah.
And I hate to admit it. And I'm like, I know you want to help, though. I see the heart. See the heart. But unfortunately, this is one of these areas where it's like, we really need I won't say technical, but the person who understands, where I don't have to define the term so much. Right. So I get what you're saying, Peggy. I get it.
So everything I do about PCI really.
Caesar here saying, Peggy, I've seen a lot of your posts, and I have to say it's refreshing to see your perspective. Esther's here. She says, me too. Peggy has been there and done that for a long time. Her knowledge and expertise is rare, especially the fact that she is open to sharing.
Yes, nobody wants to share.
Yes, Esther is an up-and-coming rock star, just like the both of you. So,
thank you. It's a pleasure to meet Esther. I hope we connect on LinkedIn. Yeah, maybe we have you on here one day too, and you can chat with us. So anything you have to share with us. But excellent. So let's dive in, Peggy.
Let's dive in. All right.
About reporting compliance.
So some of you might already be members of the Payment Card Assessments PCI Resource Center. What I discovered in last fall was that there was just a desperate need for education and training when it comes to PCI. And after my third speaking engagement with the PCI, the council's community meeting, I was in Toronto, I realized that I needed to help solve some problems. So Lisa and I together decided that we would start doing live workshops, and we did. And then I said, oh my gosh, what if we created a resource center that was pretty much self-service? You go in there, you get our courses, you get our content, you get what you need to do to perform as a PCI-P or a PCI-ISA inside an organization. Again, that's where our training is focused on, is helping people inside an organization, whether you're the CEO, CIO, CISO, or you've just been told that you now are in charge of creating the PCI compliance program for your organization because you just found out you became a level 1 merchant.
Okay. I love that you said
I
voluntold.
love that.
Voluntold,
Created
yes.
that.
Yes. I actually volunteered myself when I submitted my resume.
So
All right,
tell
so
me real quick, what is the website I'm looking for? And I have it saved, but I cannot find it right now.
paymentcardassessments.com.
Oh, there it is. I was looking PCI assessments.
No,
So only ask that because
paymentcardassessments.com. And, about 6 months after we, got the URL, LLC, and I said, you probably should have come up with a different name, but it is
Right?
it's there. I'm
It is
posting
what it
it
is.
in the link, everyone. So if you've heard Peggy mention it, it's not going to be the last time you'll hear it mentioned
Right.
on this show. I'm going to put it there though. So if you guys all want to go take a look at it, feel free at your leisure. And you can also follow along if she mentions anything that's on the website. Okay.
Absolutely. All right. So tonight I am talking about how to manage and deliver a successful report on compliance. So I'm under the assumption that you're all wanting to work inside an organization that has to submit an annual report on compliance, and you actually want to be in charge of running it.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, yes, Peggy.
I do.
So I
us a glutton for
I like to
punishment.
be in charge of running things.
Well, don't you just get to tell other people what you need mainly?
So it's a little bit more than that.
Okay.
A little bit more than that. All right. So I'm going to first by starting out that if you are looking for a position inside a merchant organization or even a service provider organization, I've always said this, there's a lot of skills that I think that are helpful and beneficial that will really look good to a potential employer. One of them is kick-ass project management skills. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people think that is being able to multitask. No, it's about being able to focus on one thing, move on to the next thing, focus on that, and get it done. Because we all know that when you multitask, nothing gets done the way you want it to really get done.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like the whole jack of all trades, master of none. Yes.
Right. All right. So a failure to plan your report on compliance is a plan to fail your report on compliance. And this is where the kick-ass project management skills come in to play. Anybody who fails to plan is literally planning to fail. And I talk about this quite a bit, and it's always been one of the core pillars of a successful report on compliance, which is plan your work the plan, adjust as needed. You will have to adjust. But as long as you have a plan, you know what you're adjusting. All right. In tonight's conversation, I'm going to cover some of the common mistakes organizations make that they probably don't even know they're making.
Okay.
And that as a new practitioner can help them avoid making them. Four core principles to help guide not just your report on compliance, but a continuous PCI compliance program. I'm going to cover some of the requirement basics. So I'll go over some PCI DSS requirement basics, and it's really kind of like how they structure the requirements and what to look for. And then, of course, I'm going to cover some best practices that need to be done for every single report on compliance.
Awesome.
All right.
Awesome. And everyone, you can come back later. You don't feel pressured if you're not getting your notes down now or jotted now, because you can replay this in LinkedIn and on YouTube and catch everything Peggy's saying again. Okay, so
and not only that, you can take the course inside my resource center.
Yes, yeah,
and you'll always have access to it.
Yes.
All right. So one of the biggest mistakes most organizations make is they don't do a lot of the pre-work that goes into a report on compliance. And one of the most important things that you have to do before, like 30 days before you kick off a report on compliance, you have to do an end-to-end scope assessment.
Right.
All right.
Yep.
Now, I also have a course on how to manage your scope without losing your mind. There's a 6-step process that Lisa and I created based on the School of Hard Knocks. We learned to follow it and to do it, and not just 30 days before you kick off a report on compliance, but there's things that we did in our scope assessment that we did on a regular cadence. Like we cross-checked our physical assets on a weekly basis.
Wow. Okay.
Had to do it.
Okay.
Because so many requirements depend on an accurate asset inventory.
Right.
All right.
Yep.
So your logging, your FIM, your configuration standards, they all depend on an accurate scope. Vulnerability management, patching, all requires an accurate asset inventory. So one of the reasons why I say 30 days before a report on compliance, you need to do an end-to-end. So this is your asset inventory, your people, your processes, everything that stores, processes, and transmits, and everything that's connected to that stores, processes, and transmits, as well as if you have ongoing remediation efforts, they need to be documented in your scope. If you have third-party service providers, they need to be documented in your scope. And then you need to have all of this ready to send to your QSA before you kick off the ROC, because what they in turn have to do is send you a sample. And oh, by the way, you also have to document all your physical locations as well as all of your cloud instances so that they can pull that sample set. So that's why it's critical to do it at least 30 days before. And if you've never done an end-to-end scope assessment, you probably need 2 months to do it.
Okay. So that's even before everything can get started. That's like you said, pre-assessment. And who usually runs that type of stuff? Is that like a collection of people on site? You? Okay. So then
the ISA runs it. So Lisa and I together ran it.
Okay.
We're the only 2 people.
Right.
So, and because towards the end of our tenure at our former company, we had a lot of things automated. We could do our own cross checks. And we had scope down to a science where our biggest hassle was making sure that we had the right people assigned to the right technologies. People change roles all the time and then they leave.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
I bet that company
isn't my job anymore.
I bet they miss you guys.
Well, it's been 2 years.
Yeah, I bet that it was a hard change for them.
Yeah, because they're paying the QSA a lot of money.
Yeah. Wow.
All right.
Well, that's a lot of work on you. That's a lot of work in those 2 months to get started, right?
So if you've never done an end-to-end scope assessment, you're probably going to need more than 30 days. I could do an end-to-end scope assessment in about 3 weeks.
Wow. Okay.
I
appreciate that time reference. That's good for someone, like for me, Janae, I'm always thinking like that practical piece of this is like, what's my time frame and things, and I'm not too scared of when I start it. I know I don't know, but I do like that reference. So I can be like, okay, if it's unrealistic to work towards getting it done in 3 weeks, at least having that there, it's like, I want to at least try to see if I can meet that goal, not trying to, I don't feel like speed's the game so much.
No, speed is not the thing. It isn't, because what I tell people, I don't know if you saw maybe it was from 2 days ago. The first thing you have to do with a scope assessment is follow the money. So this is all of your primary systems, people, processes, and technologies. And I basically said, take your time here. You have to get this right. You have to get it right. And you have to dig into, well, who's touching the credit cards and why do they have access? I found out 2 years after I was in my role, we had a collections department.
Oops.
Who was going to tell you?
So that's good to know too, right? Because if you don't take care of it at the beginning, it costs money to the organization later. And then the time and everything else involved. And it's kind of like a pyramid, right? So when you start building, or like a house of cards, maybe that's better. If you're building on wrong information, everything else on top starts crashing down. It's
exactly. Remember, bad input, bad output.
Exactly. And so
Okay.
my current role as a data analyst for a company,
Yeah.
that's one of our biggest things. Like as a I'm the lead analyst here for my team. And, they're always like the data, whatever. And I'll just be like, look, man, at the end of the day, if they give you bad data, you're
That's
going
what
to
you're
give
going to
them a
get for
bad,
your output.
that's what they're going to get. So send it back to them and let them know this is all based off the numbers you gave me. I didn't do anything extra to it. So
Right.
I hear you.
Right.
I hear you.
So that very first thing, the scope.
Mm-hmm.
If people can go in and help merchants understand what their scope is for their assessment, because I go into this in my how to manage scope without losing your mind. I go into this whole thing. How can you even assess if you don't know what you're assessing? Right? It's like the blind leading the blind.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to know what you're assessing, and not for anything, but when you turn in your entire inventory, not just physical assets. Remember, inventory is people, processes, and technology. And you hand it over. Well, you shouldn't just be handing it over to your QSA. You need your QSA involved in all of the walkthroughs that you're doing for your end-to-end scope assessment, because this helps them understand your environment. It gives them the opportunity to ask questions about your environment, maybe even ask, well, how are you doing that? And why are you doing that? Maybe they have something insightful that they can add to the conversation. I've worked with some really good QSAs who said, hey, maybe you might want to try this way, and it's better. Or you might want to try it that way and it's worse. And you're like, okay. But there's two key things that the QSA is responsible for when it comes to a merchant scope. They have to verify and validate it. So you might as well just bring them along for the ride.
Right.
True. Good point. I like that.
Have them in the walkthrough meetings, and you're going to have a lot of walkthrough meetings to go through all the cardholder flows and all of the network diagrams and all of the secondary systems that are connected to the cardholder data environment. All right. So just bring them along for the ride.
Okay.
And tell them to buy lunch.
Yeah.
There you go.
Peggy, I have no issues doing that. I like a
good right?
sandwich. I tell them, I'm like, I like a good sandwich, and a chocolate chip cookie goes a long way with me. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It really does. It's funny.
All right. So the second thing that is a problem, especially when it comes to well, it doesn't really kind of matter what size of an organization, whether you're a level 1 merchant or a level 4 merchant or anything in between. If you don't have repeatable processes, your compliance program is junk. I'm just going to come right out and say it. It's junk.
So what do you mean when you say repeatable processes?
So you need repeatable processes, right? Because this is going to show maturity in your compliance program. These are things that you do day in and day out, and you do it the same way. You configure and harden servers the same way. You follow the same checklist. You review your network security control rule sets the same way. Twice a year, probably more frequently if you're a big organization, like once a quarter or even once a month. And if you don't have repeatable processes, how are you going to automate?
Yeah, that's the big key.
You have to have repeatable processes in order for you to look at them and go, I think I can automate this.
So it's like developing good habits from the start, not trying to incorporate it later, because getting people to change their ways is challenging.
Exactly. So there's still, and the statistics are out there. You just look at the Verizon Payment Security Report, and you can go out to their website and find it, Google it. Most organizations don't have repeatable processes, and it shows because they can't sustain their compliance.
Yeah. Yeah.
They fall out of compliance within 6 months of getting a signed report on compliance. So they don't have repeatable processes where they really need to. They're probably checking boxes, and they're probably treating the report on compliance like one big fire drill.
And I can definitely say from that perspective, I've been in organizations on the IT side of things where I've had a Fortune 50 company, for example, who's pretty on top of their game, and their compliancy is, how do you say it? Like, you don't have as much trouble. It's a monthly, they're always updating or, making sure everything's good to go every month. Then I've been a part of those companies where, international companies where they don't have it. And then from quarter to quarter, things are popping up on vulnerability reports. And you're like, why did this machines that were put in quarter 3 of 2022 work great, but the ones in quarter 1 of 2023 all of a sudden seems like they just burped or whatever?
Yeah.
And it's like, there's absolute
There's
validity
gaps.
to what you're saying. You see that and you're like, what happened? And then you realize, oh, the entire the engineering team had a restructure at some point. A new director took over, and it just cascades. And you're like, so then we just all forgot to do our job, or
Right.
Forgot to follow a process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I hear you.
So the repeatable processes, I just want to say one more thing about this, is because PCI DSS requirements have frequencies. So you have to do things on daily, monthly, quarterly, semi-annual basis. So if you don't have repeatable processes, especially for your daily, monthly, and quarterly, you'll fall out of compliance within 2.3 seconds of the ink drying on your report on compliance.
Interesting.
So the third mistake that a lot of organizations make, and I've already talked about it, is they treat the report on compliance like an annual fire drill. And the first couple of years that I was running the compliance program, I coined the term selective amnesia. And I would get, well, we just gave that to you. No, you didn't.
Yeah.
And this evidence is required on a monthly basis. So even if you gave it to me last month, you have to give it to me this month too.
Right.
So they treat PCI, it's like a bad dream or something.
Yeah. It's like this final stamp. Like if we did it, it's a one and done. You shouldn't ask me for this for like another year, or 3 or 5.
5. Don't bother me. And it's like, no. So yeah, they treat it like an annual fire drill, and the requirements that have frequencies, system administrators will get in your face about it. And it's like, relax, you just have to do this because see this? Here's the requirement. It says you have to do vulnerability scans at least once a quarter and after significant change.
Right. If you want to keep getting that money that keeps us all in business, then
right.
Yeah.
Right. So all right. And we all know that the definition of insanity is doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results. So this is where you just can't treat the ROC as an annual fire drill. When Lisa and I worked at our former company, and this is what we teach people, is that your continuous PCI compliance program, if it's running the way it's supposed to run, it's simply going to feed the report on compliance. And what you have to do for the report on compliance becomes so much easier. It becomes effortless because you've set it up. You've automated.
Kind of like the continuous process thing you're talking about.
Yeah.
Those continuous processes feed into your report on compliance continually. Right. And so it's not like having to redo the wheel every time.
Exactly. The evidence comes in the way it's supposed to come in. Problems are because we had automation and we had automated monitoring on our critical controls. We knew when systems were out of configuration. We knew when they blipped.
Yes.
Right. And it was just like automatically an incident ticket got opened. It got into the change management queue, and it got fixed. And it got fixed within 30 days so that we could show proof that we're following our processes.
So when you started, did you guys have that automated process, or you brought that in? Okay.
Oh gosh, no. Okay. We started with 6 spreadsheets.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yes. I started with a mess.
Excel was your friend or
no,
enemy.
It wasn't. I hated it.
Yeah.
Was it hard to get the buy-in from your company to move that in that direction, or did they?
No, it wasn't hard to get the buy-in because we ran the program and nobody else knew what they were doing but us. So we did it.
Awesome. So okay.
And I'm probably all right. Here's a secret. Here's a confession. I'm lazy.
I've heard that from other ISAs that they're lazy and they want to make it easier, so they come up with creative processes.
Yes.
And you know what? I don't knock it. I don't knock it, Peggy, Jeanette. Here's
Who
the thing, it's
wants
like,
to send out, raise your hand, who wants to send out 253 or more emails?
No,
No,
not me.
System administrators.
not
Raise
me.
your hand. Do you want to?
no,
No.
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 I remember I had a director, Peggy, once, and he said when he took over us, he was like, "You send me a lot of reports." He was like, "How many of these are really needed?" I was like, "You know what? I don't know. This is what my last director told me to provide." He goes, "Do me a favor, pick the top 3 and keep those going. Stop the others, and let's see if anybody says anything. And if anyone does, go ahead and supply those." No one said anything ever, and I was like, "Oh my gosh."
So one of the first things Lisa and I automated was email. So just for example, say it takes 10 minutes to craft an email,
Right.
with the requirement, the testing procedure, and an explanation of the evidence that you need to provide.
Mm-hmm.
Say it just takes 10 minutes to do that. I think the
Okay.
first round we did, it took longer than 10 minutes. Multiply that times 200, just say 253. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How much time is that?
That's a lot of hours.
It's a lot of time to send out emails.
Right.
Now that's just to create the email and send it out.
Right.
What
Not even the
happens
work
now?
behind it.
What
Then you
happens
get
now?
responses.
The responses come back.
Yeah. Yes.
And you're like, oh my God, I am in the email hell.
Yes. You've gotten
How
flooded
do I get out? Because remember, I'm lazy. I don't want to be in email.
You're not lazy. You just work smarter, not harder.
Yes, I teach people to assess smarter, not harder, but I always joke and say I'm just really lazy.
Yeah.
I don't want to and I'm an introvert, so I don't want to do this.
Oh,
Right?
okay.
No, I'm not really an introvert.
I was going to say, I was like, I find that hard to believe, but maybe you're giving your energy out right now. So
remember, introvert and extrovert. Extrovert gets their energy by being around people, and introvert needs to go by themselves to recharge.
Yes.
I love being around people, but I need to go be by myself to recharge.
Fair enough. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
All right. So we can tackle a little bit more about Peggy.
We'll say Peggy is cooking.
I'm just telling it like it is.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So just on the email, just by automating email alone, and what is even mind-blowing to me is that we automated the email in 2013, and we had I'm not going to name the tool, but just say we had 2 GRC developers that were working in a tool that we were kind of forced to use. Mm-hmm. And I hated it, and it didn't work for PCI. And I went round and round with the sales executive from the GRC tool. And I told him, I said, you know nothing about PCI. I said, I'm a level 1 merchant. Your tool does me no good. It's just a SAC-D.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I canned it. I said, no, you're no good to me. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
So be careful with GRC tools. A lot of times they really don't understand PCI. Accountability and ownership is the 4th big mistake that a lot of organizations.
Hey, Marcia is asking, how did you automate that process? I think she was talking about the emails.
Email. So long story short, we had 2 developers that took almost 4 months to automate 253 emails. Okay.
That sounds about right, though, to be honest with you, in a corporate environment and getting the sign-offs and everybody, the project hours. So
this was the GRC tool that I kind of canned, and I said, okay, but I can probably use it for this. If this is what you want to build out for me, go for it. So they did. And it worked for 1 year. Okay. It broke all the time. And then when the DSS went from version 2 to version 3, I had to change everything.
Were there a lot of updates between 2 and 3? Is that why?
Oh, you have to just renumber everything.
Oh.
And there were a lot of updates, just like there's a lot of updates from 3.2.1 to version 4. And that's what Lisa and I are in the process of doing right now, is we're doing all of the mapping from version 4 to version 3.2.1 so that people don't have to go and figure out the renumbering system.
Fantastic.
Beautiful.
So we're going to do it for people.
I appreciate that. I can't wait till it comes out. So
yes, it will be out before the end of the year.
Okay, nice.
Awesome. Good for
you. We have other things that we're trying to get out too. So accountability and ownership. Now, this problem hopefully will go away because of version 4. In version 4, if you are assessing your requirements, your compliance program under version 4, which everybody's going to have to come March 2024, there are 11 requirements that speak to accountability and ownership. And again, it's 1.1.2, 2.1.2, 3.1.2, 4.1.2, blah, 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 blah. The only one that doesn't have it is requirement 12, because there is a requirement to maintain your scope in requirement 12. All right. So accountability and ownership was, I couldn't believe that the council actually had to spell it out, because from my perspective of doing running the compliance program, how did I know who I was going to assign a task to if I didn't know who was accountable and who owned it? So when Lisa and I automated our report on compliance, and we had it fully automated in 2019, we knew exactly, we could just click on the task that we were assigning, and it went to the system administrator. And if the system administrator was late in getting their evidence, it automatically sent an overdue notice to both the system administrator and their boss. Nice. So I knew who was accountable and who owned the task.
By automating that, right?
It's just hitting me now, Peggy. When we're talking automating right now, I originally was thinking just emails, but are you saying that you were able to automate, whether it be email or live documents, however you want to put it, the entire report on compliance, like every aspect of it with clicks of buttons? You were able to get information or request information from the departments that needed to provide it to you?
Yeah.
Was the software proprietary to the organization, or it's one that's
no, we actually we took a tool that they had. We built it out in Jira, and I hated Jira, to be honest with you. It didn't do everything I wanted it to do. So what we did,
my mind's blown right now.
Polaris PCA.
Yeah.
We built out an end-to-end how you can run your report on compliance. We built it out in ClickUp. ClickUp is way better than Jira. Sorry, Jira. You were good.
I was going to say, you're going to get the Jira people are going to be like, say what? They're going to fall on that sword.
That's fine. That's fine. I could not do things in Jira that I can do in ClickUp.
Okay, I've never heard of ClickUp.
ClickUp's
heard of Jira up and down everywhere else.
So Jira is generally a service desk type thing. It's an issue tracking.
Okay, like
software, right? It's also a project management software. But when Lisa and I were evaluating what we wanted to do and for what we wanted to build out to help organizations, is we started researching. So we already knew Jira and we knew its limitations. We tried other ones, and when we found ClickUp, I think I felt like being Julie Andrews at The Sound of Music, and singing "The Hills Are Alive" with the sound of, oh my God, this is amazing.
That's exciting.
I've been there with certain software. I remember when I was at the big company, we were using our ticket tracking, HP Service Manager. And I remember I used to complain about it all the time. And then I went to a company that didn't have anything close to it. And I was like, oh my gosh, I miss HP Service Manager so much right now.
So we have an out of the box solution that we built in ClickUp, and we're happy to show anybody and everybody what we built. And not for anything, but we can take anybody's spreadsheets if they're still managing the report on compliance in spreadsheets. We can take what you have for your processes and build it in ClickUp.
Wow, that sounds like I can't remember the name of it, but there is a similar thing where I remember introducing to where we were taking our Excel our reports I was telling you about, throwing them in, and I cannot remember the name of it, but it sounds so close to ClickUp, but it's not. And we would just throw it in there, and it would turn all of the reports into graphs for us magically, right? And it was like, oh my gosh.
So what we built out. So using Jira, we saved $100,000 in outside assessment fees. We shaved 12 weeks off our report on compliance, because why have a meeting when you can assign a task?
Yes. Yes.
And when you tell people you only have 5 days to give me the evidence, or you're going to go into overdue status, and oh, by the way, your boss is going to get emailed too.
Yeah.
So
I got all my evidence in 5 days.
Nice.
So were you responsible kind of too for building that culture at the company too, of the awareness and the importance and what we're doing?
I trained everybody.
I love that part of it. To me, I think that's the best part for me.
Jeremiah, absolutely, definitely a level up from spreadsheets, because you know what? It just takes too much time to create an email, send it out, follow a spreadsheet. And then of course, if you send out a spreadsheet and you've got, and you send it out to 6, just say you send it out to 6 different system administrators to have them update their stuff, you now have 6 separate copies, because they're going to send you back just what they updated.
Yeah.
And then you have to spend time merging them together. And it's like, no, I don't want to do that ever again. I'm lazy.
I love it. Open my eyes.
I'm with you. I'm adopting the lazy approach, quote unquote lazy approach also. Okay.
So again, we saved $100,000. We shaved 12 weeks off our total assessment time. Our QSA wasn't happy, but they really were impressed with what we did. Okay.
Nice.
Because, you know, they couldn't bill us because they were done.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah. And we had them assess inside our tool. So we were able to upload all of our evidence and they could do all of their assessment. But when you know how the requirements fit together, you're not uploading evidence for one requirement and then having the QSA assess that one piece of evidence for that one requirement. You're doing it in blocks. So you send I am making stuff up right now, the 1.2.x controls. You send them together and you have one main requirement, 1.2, and then you have the sub requirements. They're all subtasks, and all of the evidence has to be uploaded for each of those subtasks for 1.2 to be completely assessed. So when it comes back as in place, it's all in place. You've just now assessed 7 or 8 controls as in place because you know how the requirements fit together.
Yeah,
now, that's the way to project manage and multitask in one, I think. I like it.
And that's a question I've always wondered too, Peggy. Like, and I know a few people I've spoken to who are learning about this too. It's always like, how many of the requirements are so adjacent to each other, so that we could limit on meeting times and gathering times, so that we can say, from my perspective, I'm like, let me meet with all of the database administrators, for example, and how many of the requirements can I knock out by having one meeting with them instead of, oh, I forgot one and now I got to call another meeting with them. It said, and then you divide, kind of like everything what you're talking about. So
there's another point that I do in the report on compliance, because you have all of the interviews and the real-time observations.
Mm-hmm.
You consolidate them so you're only interviewing your system administrators once, not twice. Not unless they say, I want 2 interviews. Like I had a firewall administrator who would do all of requirement 1. I mean, most of requirement 1 for the interview and observation. And it usually took about 45 minutes to get through his chunk. But then he also had to sit for the interview for access controls. Access controls, the requirement to see a system administrator log in. So that's a requirement 2 in requirement 2. And then you have 7 and 8. And he would always say, I want 2 separate, because that was him.
Yeah.
That was how he worked. But most everybody was like, oh, the system administrator for antivirus, which is now anti-malware. He wanted it all done. 1, I want to do requirement 5 and then all of my access controls. We're going to just do it all at once. Yeah. And so that's how I would coordinate his interview.
That's cool. So there's definitely some nuances to people. It's not just the job, not just the PCI aspect to it, but there's definitely that people piece that we need to have if this is the type
You
of
do.
work that we want to do. It's
And-
not about just saying, hey, give me this and that. It's also going to be their personalities we got to deal with.
Right.
So speaking of that, I have discovered. All right, now I'm going to use a little Star Trek reference. Okay,
Oh,
you
that's fine with
cannot
me.
have a Vulcan interview a Vulcan. It is a disaster.
Okay.
All right, it's like
Yeah.
asking an engineer to interview another engineer. They both want to live inside their box.
Yeah.
Okay, I have no problems with Vulcans. I love Vulcans. You need to have a QSA who's really good at interview and who's not socially awkward to do the interviews.
I appreciate you saying that, Peggy.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I think probably a lot are socially awkward, I would think. Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I feel like in my 2 decades with dealing with IT people, I've noticed that the majority is not that they're socially awkward.
They're introverts. They don't want to be bothered. Leave them alone.
Yes.
They get nervous. There's, it's like not a lot of, there's people that don't like to be interviewed.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so what
can
I
I not
did,
just sit in my desk and just
do my job.
Just keep my head in my monitors. That's all I want to do.
Well, I want to do. I don't want to be interviewed.
Yeah.
So what I did after my first report on compliance, and I realized that I had some nervous Nellies, nervous Neds. I had people who forgot how they configured their management console. I had to stop more interviews and just say, we're going to table this. We'll come back to it.
Yeah.
And I learned. I would do my kickoff meeting and say, okay, this is when all the interviews are going to happen. This is the time frame for it. If you're nervous, you're new, you're whatever, you just want to practice, you schedule time with me. I didn't chase anybody. I said, you schedule time with me and I'll do a dry run interview with you.
That's great.
That's what I did because I wanted everybody to feel successful.
Okay.
And I actually have somewhere out there, I have an article about 10 steps to breeze through an interview. It's not an open book test. You can bring your entire team with you. You can bring your rabbit's foot, have a good breakfast, have lunch while you're doing your interview. I don't care, whatever is going to make you comfortable. But most people would treat it like a closed book test.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, bring your run book with you. Bring your processes with you. Bring your checklist. I don't care. Bring it. Just bring whatever.
I appreciate that, Peggy, because there are a lot of times, especially in this day and age, like when we have interviews that we're doing over virtual sometimes, right? And you get 2 or 3. And I'm always, whenever I've been a part of interviews with folks, whether it be like for a job or interdepartment collaboration of some kind or whatever, I'm like, you got to bring, if you bring your resources with you, I'm okay with that because I expect that in the real world scenario too.
Absolutely.
So, yes.
I don't want.
Do I expect you to remember every single step? No, right. Especially if there's 40 steps.
Right. I expect you to take responsibility of it, and I expect you to be the expert.
And
but reference, I'm okay with that.
And then the other thing. So not only would I do dry run interviews with anybody and everybody who wanted them, I didn't care. But I did say that if you were brand new to your role, like if you just walked in to be the firewall administrator, I said it's mandatory. You have to do a dry run with me.
Yes.
Sorry. The other thing I did is I was on every single interview with the QSA and my system administrators because I was the buffer. And inside the meeting invite was the boundaries. And I just copied and pasted right out of my I have a consolidated interview and observation schedule, copied and pasted it right into the meeting invite. All right.
Yep.
And I would have QSAs that would squirrel, rabbit, whatever. And I'd say, hey, this is the agenda. Here.
Yeah, let's stay focused because we all have time and things that we need to do. And
so you're building up. And I would say that's not part of the interview. Next.
Yeah. Ooh. I like that.
Not part of the interview.
Yeah.
I've ended interviews. I had a QSA call in from a coffee shop and I said, no.
Yeah.
We're not doing this.
Right.
I've also had system administrators tell me, oh, I forgot how I did that. Okay, we're going to reschedule this. We're stopping.
See, okay, let me just share, Peggy, I have these guilty pleasures in life, okay? I like reading a juicy bit of drama between strangers or hearing it at a restaurant somewhere, and I'm not proud of it. I'm not proud of it at all, Peggy. Janae, don't judge me harshly, but let me
I'm
tell
not
you,
just you getting in on that mic,
let
with
me
the
tell
voice.
you, I do love low key when I get to tell someone something to do a little bit harsher than I would need to normally, right? So, like everything you're saying, Peggy, I'm like, ooh, I could do that well. I could tell them, no, we're not doing this like this, bruh. We're not doing it like this, bruh. Okay, we're rescheduling. Bye.
Bye.
I just want to say that I love that part of the that aspect of the job you're talking about, Peggy. Okay, so anyway, you know a little bit about me. Let me there's some comments over here and I want to get to them real quick.
Sure.
So Peggy, Steve James, he asked over here earlier,
Yes, you can.
ClickUp template? Okay.
Yes.
So I'm guessing ClickUp is like the main software and then you can build out the templates, and you're saying you have a
we
template?
have an out-of-the-box solution for it, for
Okay,
running your report on compliance
okay, so
and continuous compliance
so
program.
for you specialists out there who will be getting out into the field and you're going to need that, remember Peggy today, okay? All right, Hector over here, automation
is key.
Yep. Jeremiah Gutierrez, is that automation tool a part of your program, Peggy, or will we learn more about it within the program?
Polaris PCA is separate from what we teach. But
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Michael says, but since you didn't see it, how could you verify that it was done? Because the engineers could lie about it.
What are you talking about?
Now we were
Can
asking.
you expand, Michael?
Yeah, Michael. So give us some context again. I know we were talking about it, Michael, and I got to your question late. But if you can help us remember in the comments, let us know. We'll come back to that. Alex says, awesome. Chris, sounds like being an ISA is more work than being an AQSA or QSA.
I told you I like to be in charge of things. You get to be in charge as the ISA.
And I'm with you. So I didn't realize that, Peggy. Janae, I don't know if you did. I always had this image for whatever reason. ISA was kind of on the bottom and QSA.
No. An ISA has to know just as much, if not more, than the QSA. Because I had to know how everything worked in my environment.
Right.
So I could explain it to the QSA.
So here's another perception I'm creating. An ISA is a professional at a singular organization, and a QSA is a professional that works at multiple organizations or services multiple organizations.
So they have to work for a QSA company, and they can be on multiple. They're consultants, basically. So they can be at multiple clients throughout the year.
So like lawyers, like you have lawyers who have multiple clients.
Yeah.
Or therapists who have multiple. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Tula says, hi, man. Good seeing you. Hello, Tula. Peggy, I need to lock in with you, PC Guru.
All right. Paymentcardassessments.com.
And we will make sure I put the link earlier in the chat, but I will put it here in a minute when Peggy gets talking again. Alan's here says, hi, I'm trying to be a boss now. Bruh, I don't try. Okay, let me just make that part clear. If I wanted to try, I'd automatically fail at it, but I am doing it. So just FYI. Caesar, this is so much sauce, y'all. Peggy, the way you address the QSA is something I'll be doing in the future. I start my role officially in September and want to be prepared as I can be. More power to you, Caesar. More power, brother.
Caesar. Yay.
I'm proud of you. I'm happy for you, man. I can't wait.
Right, because ultimately you're hiring that QSA, so they work for you.
They work for me. The QSAs work for me.
Okay. All right.
And so one of the things that I did at the beginning of a report on compliance is I actually had a little training session with the QSA about here's our processes. This is the tool that we use to do the assessment. This is where all the evidence is. This is how you're going to assess. I would walk them through our assessment process.
So just taking charge and letting them know that they're not going to walk all over you, and this is what we do, and this is how we do it, and take it or leave it. Yep. I like it. That's great.
Yep.
We'll have to chat later again about the ISA QSA stuff, because now I'm all like, oh, now I'm gunning for an ISA spot now whenever I can, whenever the opportunity presents itself.
You know,
I'm like Peggy, guys. I like to be the boss. I am not going to lie about that.
Now, the fifth biggest mistake most companies make, and we've talked about this already, If you don't have a plan, you are at the mercy of your QSA. And like all good consultants, they charge a lot of money.
Yes, they do, I'm sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Never in the history has somebody been able to come up and say, I saved money in my compliance program. I did.
So it makes it all that more worthwhile to be able to learn from you, because that's a flex I wouldn't mind giving out later. Okay.
Yeah. So if you don't have a plan.
Jeremiah says, are you saying that the QSAs work for you as an ISA?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Cesar, Peggy, any insight on looking for a good QSA firm or contract?
Yes, I have a whole article on that on my blog.
Okay. All right.
What to look for in a QSA.
And I'm sure you can find that on your
Peggy. You're doing
everything. No kidding, right?
You got the blog and you got the company and the website and the teaching. Man, that's great. I love it. I'm the same way. I'm like,
and again,
I do it all.
In October, I'm going to be in Dublin at the PCI European Community Meeting, and I'm part of a panel discussion about why it's so important to talk the same language as your QSA, why it's so important to have an ISA on staff. Because who else
is that going to be broadcast? Are we going to be able to watch that? I can't.
I don't know. You're going to go to Dublin?
No.
Maybe.
Ask me again in a couple of months. Let me see if my new work will allow me that flexibility.
Yeah, I will be going to Dublin. They'd asked me if I wanted to do this in Portland, and I kind of looked at how I was. She's wonderful.
Yes,
no, I'm not.
Ashley, no,
not really.
Look, I think people agree. Look. They're flooding in right now, Peggy. She's a wonder here. Look, yes, people think you are fire. So, yeah.
Just getting from Boston to Portland, I was going to have to get there a day early and stay an extra day. And I said, you know what? It's easier for me to go to Dublin.
And that's in September?
I'm going to be in Dublin in October.
So Jeremiah is saying here, why don't you do the September meeting in Portland, the PCI conference? No?
So there's also a very selfish reason why Dublin. My daughter and I have 2 grandsons that live in Dublin.
Okay. That makes sense.
Then definitely go.
Okay, Michael's clearing up his question earlier. Peggy said she got responses to the controls from designated team via automation. My issue is, how did you verify that the controls were done?
Oh, that's easy. I can talk to you all about that, Michael.
So
it's so easy because they have to submit the evidence.
Yeah.
And not for anything, but if you've automated your critical controls and you have monitoring and alerting in place, you know it's done.
Right. So there's a section, and so for anyone learning the PCI requirements, right, there's a section that says how you verify that the requirements are done. And so
this is a big piece that most people don't get. Right. So this is in the course that I teach on decrypting PCI DSS requirements, right? The DSS has the testing requirements, and I'm going to get into some of the, we're going to go into, I don't know how much time do we got? Because we've been on for quite a bit.
We have been on for a bit. And so let me make this
another session.
I do want to be respectful of your time, Peggy, and everyone else's time.
Oh, me too. I want to be, because I can talk about this all night long.
And I'm more than happy to come back for a part 2, even, this weekend or next week at the same time kind of situation. Sure. We could talk about it afterwards, but I just want to make sure we're being respectful of everyone's time.
Right. So what I want to point out is the DSS has the testing requirement, it has the testing procedure, and it has the guidance. Guess what it doesn't have?
What?
The evidence required. Guess where that is?
Yes.
That's in the reporting instructions that the QSAs follow. So if you're not looking at that document, you're going to be SOL every time you do a report on compliance.
Okay, so what you're saying is
not getting the right evidence.
Right. So you're saying like a requirement can tell you that you need the logs, for example, of your, like an intrusion detection system, for example. You need it, right? But it doesn't tell you where or how to get it. It doesn't tell you.
Guess what? In the reporting instructions, it tells you need to see the configuration setting of the system.
But and that even then,
it's not in the testing requirement. Have a nice day.
Wonder why that is.
Because
It's minimum guidance on it.
Right.
It's minimum guidance.
Not that it's misleading. I don't think it's misleading. I just think multiple people write at the council.
Ah.
That makes sense. Okay.
I think they're trying to do better.
I think so too. I think so too. Just seeing the 4.0, it seems.
Yeah, I think they're trying to do better. So, but yes, how did you verify that the controls were done? It was easy. If I got the screenshot, it's done, because that's the same evidence that the QSA is going to look at.
Right.
Would you say though that you knew that because, let's be honest, experience taught you that also, right? Like on your first run,
before I even took my role, when I was doing all the security projects for the cardholder data environment, there I just remember listening. Oh, the senior director in hosting was not happy one day because they were trying to get through the very first report on compliance. And they were at the time they were a level 2, assessing as a level 1 because they were about to tip over 6 million. And so the VP of that business unit said, let's assess as a level 1. And it was just taking so much time because the organization was thinking that they were doing the right things and providing the right evidence, but the QSA kept coming back and saying, no, this isn't what we need. And one day I was sitting in my office and I was just listening to somebody throw a mini temper tantrum. And I just went out onto the council's website. They have a whole document reference library. And I found the report on compliance reporting instructions. And I printed out a couple of pages. I walked into the senior director's office and I said, if we're not following this, we're going to continue to fail. This is what we need to follow. And I showed it to him. And then when I took my role as to become the ISA and run the compliance program, I was like, even now, what I have, I don't know if you can see this.
I'm a binder girl too. I got my binder papers like
this is not the DSS. This is the reporting template.
Oh,
Right.
geez.
If you're the ISA, this is what you need because all the evidence requirements are in
Right.
This is where my daughter says she would look at you and she'd be like, Miss Peggy, slay.
The best part's making your binder cute for me.
My binder is not.
How many of y'all out there watching? Let me just a raise of hand, or me just saying me. How many of you have your binders? I'm just curious because I don't have it. So right now, there's two out of 3 people here have a binder, and I'm kind of like, I'm digital though, because ask me, I do have my digital binder, but I do not have a physical binder.
Need my physical binder because I talk back to it. I have things highlighted.
Yes.
I have notes.
Yes.
And the thing is that this has seen me through multiple rocks. That I have things that are highlighted that says, don't forget this. Don't forget to do this. Because I had my, even 5-6 years into this, there was some times that I made rookie mistakes. And I was just like, okay, if I put this note in my binder next to the requirement, I won't forget it.
Is that one of the things you'll be offering on your website, Peggy's binder?
Well, see, all of our best practices are inside Polaris PCA. So it's inside the automated tool we built.
Okay. That makes
all sense. Of my and Lisa's.
I love the way your brain works because mine works the exact same way. Since I've got into this, I'm like, I need to make this so it's easy for me, and I need to have
it's gotta be easy
and workflows, and I need to organize it. And you've done that already. So,
and I was telling Janae about the resource center, Peggy, and I was like, she's already done what's not like a lot of this is out there. I was like, you should check it out sometime.
Don't reinvent the wheel.
Yes.
I have it. I even have the consolidated interview and observation schedule. It's out in the resource center. Now, I know not everybody wants to subscribe or be tied to a monthly subscription, although it's super easy because you can cancel at any time and I don't care. Well, I do care, especially if you're working in PCI, because all the best information is inside the resource center about how to do it.
So we are going to wrap up, but someone asked earlier, let me see if I can find it real quick. I can't remember their name, but essentially they asked, is the resource library updated periodically? Here we go.
Like
In your program, do you periodically update your information? That's what they asked.
we're updating all the time.
Yeah.
So like we just published the SAQ eligibility guide so that you don't have to open up every single SAQ. I just did a quick
thank you for that.
A quick cheat sheet so that you can go and you can see the different criteria for the different SAQ levels. And I think this hopefully will help people that are working at smaller and medium-sized businesses to figure out which SAC am I supposed to use.
Yes.
That's a big problem in the small to medium-sized business areas. They don't know which SAC to use.
Right.
We published at the beginning of June, we launched our vulnerability management overview. So it covers requirements 5, 6, and 11 for vulnerability management. And again, this is how everything starts to loop together. And we're pulling together all of our log management material right now. That's going to be our next course, and we're hoping to get that launched either by the end of this month or the very beginning of August.
And I know we're going to talk about this later, real quick too. But she does host monthly Q&A calls for her subscribers. Awesome. And I always seem to miss it by one day, like I did today. I looked at my email and I was like, "What is going on?" And then I saw it. I was like, "God dog it!" I was like, "I missed it again." I was so upset, and I was like,
"So it's kind of one of
automate
those."
That process.
I did.
Well, so I did, and you just go out to the resource center. You scroll down to the bottom, and there's the schedule. You can submit your question through the resource center if you have a question. You can submit it right there because I do not take questions over LinkedIn anymore.
I imagine
there's too many subscribers at this point, and I can't keep track of everything.
Yeah. The subscribers are what's important. That's awesome.
So here's what I want to do. I want to, Peggy, if you can, in a moment, I want you, if you can put a pin where we're at, and then that way we can pick up next time. I want to go through some of the comments and questions maybe on the side real fast.
Yeah.
And then I want to give you the screen, kind of just share. At the end, I'd like to kind of just give a guest who's here, like you, and give you an opportunity to just share anything that you want to share with anyone. It could be your favorite chocolate chip cookie recipe. Wink, wink. It could be the service that you provide, or just a goodwill message or anything like that. But just give you the screen and just you, and let you speak to the audience. And then after that, I'm gonna let you go, and I'm gonna close the show out. But I'm only gonna put you in the green room for a little bit so that you and I can just have a quick chat after the show. Don't exit, don't leave. Go grab you some water if you want to, real quick. Go grab you a cookie if you want. And then when we're done, we'll close and we'll end the show. Everyone go on the way, and we will talk about when we come back for part 2. So, sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So here, Jose said, Peggy, yes. Caesar was saying he lived close to Portland, so he would have gone if you would have gone to the PCI.
I do too, kind of. Like,
oh, you do too, Janae?
Well, 5 hours, so close enough.
I would have made an effort to go too. I'll tell you that.
Everybody just come to Dublin. I know all the best pubs.
Jeremiah, well, I'm signing up for the monthly program now. Oh, and awesome. I will put that link here in a moment when Peggy starts talking to you all on her own. I will paste the link in the chat so that you guys can all see where it's at. That was such a neat thing. All right. I have Marsha, I appreciate that. Yes, part 2, please. We will do a part 2.
Yes.
I have put everything on hold. LOL.
So here's the thing, guys. I know this is super fun to be here and be. The reporting template that the QSAs use. You can download it from the council's website.
The website, yes.
It's in their document library.
Go ahead, Peggy. What were you saying?
All right. Oh gosh, I saw the question. Squirrel.
I tell you guys, you can.
It'll come back to me. It'll come back.
Okay. All right.
Back to me. It'll come back. Everything that I'm teaching you here is in the resource center.
Oh yes.
And there's quizzes, and you get like a course completion.
I love that.
It's really
I love that. So I
just
know
do a little
doing
second thing. When you go onto the resource center, there's a key that gives you different things. So she has videos, she has quizzes, she has courses She has her well, I already said video. So anyway, and then she has documents, right? And you're able to download any of these and use these things. You can watch these things. I'm excited because my time in my previous program is extremely, like, I'm pretty done. I'm like 98% done. So I'm going to be using the time that I was using previously to go through. But she has these things where you can click on the link, and then it opens you up to like a lesson kind of situation.
Or the guidebook.
Yeah. And then you go through and you can just start self-pacing yourself with all the lessons in there. And then there's quizzes based on those too. Numbers.
And then you get a course completion certificate. You're not certified to do any. I make no promises. I don't place you in jobs. I haven't looked for a job in over 12 years. All right. Things haven't changed all that much. You have to be able to sell yourself. And that's what your resume is supposed to be for. It is the bait and the hook to get you an interview. That's all your resume is for.
Got it.
There's nothing magic about it. And the more active verbs you use, the better off you are.
I like that. I like that.
Right.
Corey's here. I'm still stuck on the gem she dropped about automation. This is genius. Chef's kiss. Stay away. Marcia's. Oh, slay away.
Slay away.
Why would you say stay away? No.
Slay, girl.
Yeah.
Slay.
Will says he has a
you
binder,
have a binder,
y'all. Marcia says she has a binder.
Yeah.
Corey, I use multiple.
Oh, I have those too.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I have all of my notebooks from my former company, and I have found so much good stuff in them that I'm like,
thank you, James.
I gotta teach people about this.
Steve and I see. I think we're the few. Okay, we are the few.
I don't know how to do it digitally.
It's easy to put your notes on there. It's clunky.
So for me though, what I gain benefit out of is the searchable factor later.
Well, of course, yes.
And I'm a good note taker, and the way I learn better is by note taking.
Me too.
So when I take notes and when I type them, even if I'm just typing the exact same thing like if I were to if I were to just type the requirements word for word, it just sticks like 10 times better for me for whatever reason. It just does. So
to answer Marcia's question, is the tool 4.0 ready? We are making it 4.0 ready, and it will be 4.0 ready. Our roadmap is early Q4. And the big reason why Q4 of this year is, number one, I don't know if anybody saw the recent news from MasterCard. If you're assessing in version 3.2.1 and your assessment is done by the end of March of 2024, but it just has to go into QA, you get a 90-day grace period.
90 days.
So organizations don't actually have to submit, but they have to be, the QSA's job pretty much of assessing has to be done. It needs to be in QA. And just so you know, when things go into QA, there's always what I called housekeeping. Housekeeping happens because you have another set or group of sets of eyes that are looking at your report on compliance. And you may have to go get other things.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because
we know how the timing.
If the QSA missed something.
Yeah.
It'll be picked up in QA. So we have time to get our tool ready for 4.0, but it will be ready by early fourth quarter of this year. We're like halfway done.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I will also have a new interview and observation schedule for version 4.0. And just so everybody knows, believe it or not, I scare people.
I don't believe that, Peggy.
No, QSAs, because what I'm teaching, think about this. If organizations started following what Lisa and I are teaching, as long as it makes sense for them to do this, they're going to save a lot of money.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I'm following you.
Yeah.
So Jose has a binder too, y'all.
Yay.
Just saying.
Get on board, Jaime.
Subscribe this weekend, Alex. Yes, go subscribe. Again,
Awesome.
I will put the link at the end. I'm really in the few. Steve, maybe you didn't want to hop on my train. Okay. You can go on to Peggy's anytime. Marcia, she said it would be by the end. Okay.
Yeah, we'll have we'll. Oh, awesome, Michael.
A lot of people saying there's a lot of thanks, Travion. Hi, Jose. I will chat you. Thanks you all. Thank you so much, Peggy. I came in late. Any talks on PCI 4.0 yet or anything in the program? We will get to that soon. Something is coming.
It's coming, guys. But you know what? Just take a deep breath, because the biggest change for version 4.0 that happens for 2024 is accountability and ownership. That's it. 11 requirements.
Willie Scott's saying thank you. Writing your notes on paper helps you remember the requirements. We're almost at the end. Thank you so much, Peggy. Going to Staples this weekend.
Smart man.
And Cesar, well, Peggy, I'm using my card for your trading.
I like that.
All right. So, like I said, I want to give Peggy the screen while she's doing her thing. I'm going to grab the link for her website to put into the chat. And then after that, Peggy will exit the screen. Janae and I will say good night, goodbye. And then
we'll do this again soon.
Yes.
Thank you, Peggy. This is great.
So with that being said.
All right, guys, I'm going to leave you with something that I started off the last presentation that I did at the PCI North American Community Meeting last year in Toronto. This is one of my favorite poems, and it very much applies to PCI DSS, and if you are running the PCI DSS compliance program at your company. How can you get very far if you don't know who you are? How can you do what you ought if you don't know what you've got? And if you don't know which to do of all the things in front of you, then what you'll have when you are through is just a mess without a clue of all the best that can come true if you know what and which and who. Now, this poem is actually called, it's a Winnie the Pooh poem. It's found in the book, The Tao of Pooh by Benjamin Hoff. And this applies to all aspects of your PCI compliance program, especially is the line, how can you do what you ought if you don't know what you've got? So you have to start with scope before you can even think about your report on compliance. And it all begins with scope. Now, where you can find me, everything that I talked about tonight, as far as doing a report on compliance, and I touched upon how to do your scope assessment, you can find all of this in our Payment Card Assessments PCI Resource Center. And again, like I said at the beginning of this, we teach how to do this, how to do a scope assessment, how to plan and deliver a report on compliance, how to implement a continuous compliance program. We show you how to do it, how to save money, how to save time, and how to save effort. We have 3 pillars that we follow, which is automate, educate, and operate effectively and efficiently. Those are our 3 key pillars of success for a PCI compliance program. We center everything around those 3 key components: automate, educate, and operate. All right. So with that, I know I'll be back on with Jaime soon. And as always, you can find me at paymentcardassessments.com. You can also email me directly, peggy@paymentcardassessments.com. I don't answer a lot of questions, only because we are a small 2-person consulting firm. So as much as I also want to help you be successful, we do charge a fee. It's not an arm and a leg. I promise you that. Our resource center is $49 a month. Okay. All right. With that, have a great night.
I don't know how that happened like that. There we go. Something like that. All right. Yes. So I put all those links in there. Peggy, thank you so much again. I am so thrilled that you came on. You are technically my first guest on this, and I hope to do more with you and anyone who has, if you just, let me just slow down again. I'm sorry. I'm getting all excited. Thank you again, Peggy, for joining us tonight. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I feel like a lot of people enjoyed you being here. You dropped a lot of nuggets of gold. And I hope, we want you to share whatever you're willing to share for those of us who are willing to listen, which are plenty here. Okay. So with that said, Peggy, thank you again. I'm going to put you in the green room. Don't go anywhere. We'll come back on after I say goodnight to everyone.
Okay.
And we'll have a chat about the next time we can bring you in. Okay.
Okay. Sounds great.
Thanks, Peggy.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
All right, everyone. I really thank you for doing this. Janae, thank you for hopping on with me. I really appreciated you coming on tonight.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, super excited. I saw someone said that there needs to be a shirt that says I have a PCI binder. I'm going to make one for next time and wear it.
Put me down for one. Okay.
Yeah.
Even though I don't have one.
Will
I
came up
might
with
get one. We'll see. I might get one. I don't know. I'm pretty we'll see. We'll see. I saw Jamal says, thank you, Jaime, Janae, and Peggy. Everyone's just saying thank you, thank you, thank you. And
yeah, super fun.
So everyone, I just want to throw some knowledge too. Okay. I am doing this CyberGangsters website I initially set it up so that I could just track my progress of understanding PCI. And since then, the brand has just kind of taken its own thing. I've got a Discord where I'm trying to choose my words very carefully here, where other PCI professionals want to gather and
connect.
Connect and network and just do things together. And we talk about a lot of different things related to PCI. We help each other out with questions, with resume review, LinkedIn, supporting each other. I mean, honestly, it's just a community to help each other. That was my heart for it. And that's what I wanted to do. And I feel like that's what it's achieving. It is helping people out. Janae and I, we get together and we do mock interviews with each other and others. We are always just looking up PCI information and just kind of, hey, we learned this. What does this mean? Right. And yada, yada. And if you can, I guess that's one of the messages I want to leave tonight. Network with your people, the people that really want to do great and wouldn't mind seeing you do great either and willing to help out.
I agree.
That's what I have with a lot of people. Janae, do you have any last thoughts you want to share with everyone?
I don't think so. Just thank you. I've never been on a live before, so it was pretty fun, funner than I thought. I was pretty nervous, but yeah, thank you. And I learned a lot. Peggy was phenomenal. So
she absolutely was.
Thank you.
And like I said, she's willing. So be on the lookout. We will see when part 2 will air next. I think it will happen sooner than later, though. But thank you, everyone. Love you all. Have a great night.